So we are back, and I just wanted to tell a story about, not really a story, man. I don't like to talk much about my some of my experiences, with some of the things with schizophrenia, because for me it feels a little bit embarrassing because the fact that I bought into this illness, this lie, this deception the way I did, it kind of just rubs me the wrong way. But I can point, hey, you know what, you gotta go this way, you gotta go that way, you gotta do that. But when it comes to myself, it's like I told some of these stuff in my story, and I plan to talk about them, but sometimes I just don't really like to get too personal. But I think if I'm gonna, it's not enough to just kind of just do things the way I've been doing it. I got to be open to be a little more vulnerable and kind of make myself uncomfortable. And that's actually one of the reasons why I started this channel, was because I didn't like the idea of it. I didn't like to put myself out there, man. I hate it, and but because making myself uncomfortable was one of the greatest things I could ever have done, because it helped me to really take my life back, right? Put myself in situations and places that I didn't want to be in, that made me sweat, that made me nervous, that made me want to run and just get out of there. But it's because I was so willing to do that I actually made it as far as I have, and overcome schizophrenia the way I did. But like I said, with this, it just makes me feel like just be buying into this nonsense. Just kind of, I don't like it. But it is what it is, and it's my experience. So that's just how it is. Um, so I want to talk about the delusions of grandeur. I mean, what exactly is that? Um, I've never really, I've never really looked up any, like, a lot of stuff about schizophrenia. I never really looked them up. I never really read a lot about them. The odd thing here or there, my mom was the one who was all interested in it. She's registered for the Schizophrenic Society of Alberta. She's getting magazines and all this stuff, and she learned a lot about it. I never cared, even while I was recovering. I never cared, because I mean, for me, it never really had any bearing on how to recover. It was just like, you know what I mean? Like I kind of understood it, how to get through it, and that stuff didn't really matter. So I never really had to look up all this stuff, delusions of grandeur and paranoia and all that, just whatever. Um, but I did look it up before I came on here, obviously. Um, so a quick way to put delusions of grandeur, and I knew from what the doctor told me and so forth, but a quick way to say it is just that is, you just pretty much think of yourself more than you are. So you might think you're some uh, historical figure, or some whether it's religious or royalty, I guess, in a monarchy, and or you feel like you're some big celebrity or musician, and all that noise. For me, it was, yeah, religious figure is another one as well. And for me, it wasn't a religious figure, but it was just religious in nature. Like, I thought I was a prophet. And how that started, a voice one day just spoke to me and said, "You're my prophet." But that's the thing, it wasn't just that, right? That's an odd thing to just say out of nowhere, right? And to just buy that as a really weird thing to just accept. But the thing about schizophrenia is, or at least from my experience, it's not just necessarily randomized things. It is a carefully crafted world. It's almost like there's an intelligence to it, right? Because it is it it lays a foundation as it goes, and it builds upon that foundation. You understand? So it creates a world that's damn near impenetrable, or at least, you know what I mean. It's solid. So before that came to me about me being a prophet, first I was led on this journey to fast, right? Then and before that, even I started seeing people as witches and demons, and they're all trying to get me and so forth. And then I'm on this fasting thing, and it seemed like I was persecuted the more I went on this fasting thing. So I used to listen to this preacher that people would they call him a prophet. And so I was walking one day in my house, and a voice said, "He's not my prophet. You're my prophet." And I was like, okay, that's. I was shocked. I was like, oh man, that was intense. So I went, and so I was. It kind of made sense, when I heard that. It was like, is that why all this thing's been happening to me? Why I've been going this long fast? Why these witches and demons and so forth trying to get me? So now I'm in my room, and I was laying there, and then it's like this angel came and started talking to me. He would just speak to my mind, right? Like he was, and I could tell who this angel was, because it's like sometimes when he spoke, it's like my gaze and my head, everything will move like it was pulled in a certain direction. I knew it was right here. Like it's just like this connection. And so this angel was kind of explaining some things to me, and it was telling me that, because a prophet's body is supposed to be undefiled, and I've defiled my body with drugs and alcohol and sex and so forth. So I had to get a new body, and so they're gonna take me from this body, and God's gonna put me in another body. But the catch was, I had to learn to leave my body on my own, right? And so I think I talked to like three different angels, and they would all come and try to show me different things in order to get me to like yield myself well enough. It's like astral projection. So I had to yield myself well enough by yielding to these visions that they would come and show me. And I just closed my eyes, and there was like different things, and sometimes there'd be breaks in between, and I'll close my eyes, and I'm just watching like a movie screen, like I'd be like watching the Wild West, and there'd be like, I don't know, but it was like I couldn't hear stuff being said. It was all just pictures, and it was just, I can't even understand what a lot of it meant. But some of them were the devil was in there, and there's, I don't know, like altercations, and he just kind of showed me almost like how deceptive the devil was. Like he was a slicker, you know what I mean? So it was just it was just really, it was like a whole thing, man. So when they told me all this stuff about why these people trying to kill me and stuff, it just builds on the whole thing that's been going on up to this, and it justifies everything. So eventually I got taken to the hospital because I wasn't able to leave my body enough, or in the way that they were showing me, because like I said, I just couldn't yield myself to it. And yeah, that's why I got diagnosed with the paranoid schizophrenia with delusions of grandeur. And one of the time, one of the actually no, it wasn't this hospital. I think it was the other hospital I got diagnosed with. But there, they just kind of do their need their um, fill up my or raise my numbers, I guess, and 'cause all my numbers were down, and they kind of help do that stuff and blah blah blah, and then I end up transported to another hospital where they diagnosed me there. But it was one time that I went to this hospital and I followed the voices. I listened to exactly what they were saying, and like I'd speak when I was told to speak. I'd speak what I was told how to answer a question. And I would shut up when I was told to shut up. This I did everything on point, and they never held me in the hospital. And I was in there in bad shape, and I was telling these people about me being a prophet and all this stuff, and they're like, okay, well, you're free to go. My mom was like, what are you doing? He's crazy. He's obvious. You listen to him. Look at him. And like, sorry. My mom was like, what's... She was shocked, man. She was shocked. She was shocked. They couldn't keep me, and I went home. And oh man, but there are times that's what it is, right? And when something like that happens, it just gives more validity to the whole thing you're buying into, man. Because how else did I get through that? It's got to be God, man. Like, look at this. Like, I just dealt with all these doctors and nurses and all that, and they go. Where another time they were like, oh, we look at it, we can't let this guy go. Well, then, because sometimes I would speak when I was told not to speak, because for some reason I just feel like I got to answer this question. I didn't feel right about not answering the doctor, and I'd answer, and then I would get rebuked, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to speak. And so, but when I did everything, that's what happened that one time. But so sometimes somebody's in the hospital or maybe at home or whatnot, and they're not communicating, they're not answering your questions, and it's not that they don't want to per se, it's they're being told not to. Potentially, sometimes it's not necessarily hearing something that says don't, as in my case, where sometimes it's also a feeling. Don't do this. Don't move. Like sometimes I was just still. People were talking, and I just wouldn't move, right? Because I was told, don't move, right? And sometimes I would be have to reminded to breathe, because I just hold my breath. And it's like I hear somebody says, breathe. And like, when I start taking a breath, I forget to breathe. That's insane, right? But yeah, I just do that because I felt like I was told not, don't move, don't do anything. So, but that's kind of why sometimes people are in those states. It's just they're being manipulated, and like I said, it's not just a little bubble that they're in. This is a solid walls and walls upon walls. It's difficult to penetrate that from the outside, and the person on the inside, it's difficult to penetrate that from the inside as well, because there is, like I said, it's bills. It's like a world. It's just everything is justified in this world. Yeah, and I spent a lot of time like that. Just the world just kept building, man. It just kept building itself more solid as time, because it just got more bigger. The demons became more, and the visions became bigger and just louder, and everything just became just more justified. Foundation upon foundation. Just kept building, kept building, kept building, kept building until like I'm not getting out of this. There's no way. That's why the doctors wanted me to. They eventually do the electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, to kind of jolt things loose, I guess, because the meds weren't working, and I was still doing the same thing, believing the same thing. And eventually they just want to put me in a long-term care facility because nothing was working, whether it's counseling, whether it's meds, whether it's getting shocked, all kinds of whatever therapy they want to give. Nothing was working. It's hard to penetrate that solid wall. It's hard. So they're just willing to give up years of this. How in the world did I get through that then? You know, that's the thing, man. It's hard. And for me, it was just more, it was just luck. That's it. You know, sometimes it was just hearing the right thing at the right time in the right way. You know, and questioning is, that's the biggest thing, to question things, question things, question things, question. Because when you question something, it stops the building of the wall. If I have doubts about this, what's building here, it doesn't build anymore, because my mind is what creates this wall. My mind is what tears down this wall. My mind is what stops this wall in the midst of building. When I question something, hold on, it's halfway, it's not getting built any further because I'm uncertain. So what it does is it kind of has to give me a push me over this edge in faith and belief. And when it pushes me over that, and I no longer have a question in this, whatever this illness is saying, then it can build. It's this, the wall becomes solid because I buy into it. If I question it now, it has to peel away, or at least it weakens the structure, right? And if I reject it completely, this wall shatters. You understand? So it's the mind. The mind creates it, the mind destroys it, right? And so for me, it was just hearing that voice that says, told me I was dead. And I recognized that voice to be the same devil that was speaking to me at some other point. And I'm like, hold on, but yet that's God. It's supposed to be God. So I was all this confused. I'm like, man, that doesn't make any sense. And I started thinking, well, all this time, you know, like, it's just in, I started questioning it in that instance, and like, is this really real, man? Like, now it's starting to sound like the same voice that I was trusting, and I, you know, so I just kind of I was getting tired as well of us doing the same thing over and over and over and over for years, starving myself, you know, in and out, back and forth, and all this stuff, getting in the hospital, getting hooked up to IVs, being poked, getting tubes shoved down my nose, and all that, man. That was horrible, man. So, and threats to get put in Alberta hospital where I'm going to be in there long term. They want to give me a gastric bypass through it. Could have hold in my stomach and put a tube in there. And oh man, so I just I just rejected it right there. And you know, and then now that came with other problems, right? Because to reject that, it just came, what do I have left? I still have to live in this world being, you know, with these witches and hatred, and I had no way out. That was my only way of escape, you know, to go to some place where I felt I belong. And now I'm in a place of just complete rejection, and I'm lost, man. I have nothing left. So you're just falling, man. The world crumbles, all the walls crumbles, but also the foundation, the earth shatters, and you're just falling hopelessly, man. Just gone, man. I was heavy. I was heavy. That was heavy. I cried. I cried. I cried because it felt just so lost and so alone and so empty. And it was, and all what was all the voice and everything were there, and it just pounding on you and pounding on you and pounding on you, and just, why there's no hope no more, because I was supposed to be free from all that once I left, right? This whole thing gets you a new body, all those things are going to be gone from you, and you're going to be good. Now there's no hope of any of that. So it was from one nightmare, from the one hell, and there's another hell, and there's like another freaking hell. So just you know, so but that's kind of how I got through it. But it wasn't easy. That was just luck. I got through it. And my thing is just question everything, man. Question everything, because when you question things, you kind of you're not permitting, you're not buying into the lie, right? So it cannot consume you if you do not surrender to it. To question it means it must hold off, right? Because you're not giving over. And if you're someone trying to help somebody in that position I was, there's only so much you can do. You can only just try to poke holes, I guess, is in the walls of the delusion. But it's a very hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to do, and you just got to keep knocking, keep trying, keep trying, and hopefully one day, sometime if something will click, and they can start questioning it themselves. So you always want to have them to question, always question everything, and then if they can question it, then um, they can maybe start to uh, doubt, in a sense that, or not necessarily doubt, but because they're already doubting for questioning it, but they can reject it, and that's what you want them to do, ultimately reject it, and then hopefully they don't go into where I was, because that's another problem, where you just, you know, you want to boom boom and boom boom, you know, you don't want to go there. So uh, anyway, that's my story with delusions of grandeur, and um, hopefully it helps somebody, man. Hopefully you never have to get there. And if you do, I guess just try to hold on to something, man. Question everything, and yeah, and take your meds. Take your meds. Question everything and take your meds. Uh, Meds are important. They're important. Um, Important to kind of bring you back to a level ground, and make it a little bit more even. I know some people are against meds, and sometimes you want to reject meds because there's all this side effects that it comes with. But I guess they got meds to counter side effects and so forth, different stuff. Um, but you want to take your meds, because the moment you stop taking it, sometimes it gets worse, and things just piles on you. And if you're not ready for that, then it is going to go the whole cycle again, and it's just another ride, and it's not it's not productive, it's not helpful, and it can help end in, just horrible ways. So um it's got to do what your doctor says, and you know that's it.